Top 5 horror movies that aren't actually based on a true story, even though they claim to be. Who doesn't love horror movies? Okay, well, not everybody does, but how about a horror movie based off a true story? The saying, based on a true story, is sort of like a magic phrase. Apply it to your film, and more people will go see it, and you'll make more money. So it makes sense that many filmmakers are more than happy to tweak the definition of this phrase to their liking. Today, we will be discussing 5 horror movies that, despite claiming to be based off of true stories, aren't really based on true stories. Number 5. The Fourth Kind. No, this isn't a sequel to Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Panned by critics, The Fourth Kind claimed to be based on a true story. However, not only was the main protagonist discovered to be made up by the filmmakers, the film's plot is entirely made up. It is, however, based on actual case studies. Many people who saw the film were offended by what they believed to be an attempt by the filmmakers to profit off of various cases of missing people that occurred in Nome, Alaska, where the film takes place.
There's one thing. There's an owl at my window.
An owl.
His eyes are big.
A white owl, just looking at me. Had you ever seen it before?
Tommy?
When I was a kid, just staring at me.
I've seen it a lot.
Every night this week.
Number 4. Hostel. Known as being the first film in a trilogy of extremely gory horror movies, Hostel is basically what many people would call a torture porn movie. Fortunately, the events portrayed in Hostel never actually happened. Director Eli Roth simply got the idea for the movie after reading a news article, which stated that there was a place in Thailand where people paid money to shoot other people. While that itself still sounds horrifying, the article was never even proven to be true.
What happened was true.
Number 3. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. One of the most iconic horror movies of all time. It makes sense that the film became so popular due to the based on a true story gimmick. Although, it was based on the murders committed by Ed Gein. The film's story is actually mostly exaggerated. From the number of deaths in the film to the murder weapon used, most of this film was fabricated. Still, that doesn't mean that what actually happened wasn't horrible. In fact, it's very unfortunate that the film wasn't complete fiction. Number 2. The Hills Have Eyes. Would you consider any Dracula movie to be based off a true story? Probably not. Although the Bram Stoker novel was actually based on Vlad the Impaler's horrific exploits. Wes Craven was inspired by the story of Sawney Bean, the head of a Scottish clan who reportedly killed and ate over 1,000 people. However, this story is more or less considered folklore, and Sawney Bean might not have even existed at all. Take into that account, as well as the fact that the movie itself differs quite a bit from that story, and it appears that there is very little truth to this film. Number 1. The Strangers. Perhaps the most plausible film on this list, The Strangers follows a couple whose home is invaded by a trio of sadistic, masked strangers. This is number 1 on the list due to the realistic premise. There aren't any mutant cannibals, aliens, ghosts, or any other type of creature in this movie. The villains are simply humans. However, what happened in real life was much less scary. See, director Brian Bertino based the film on events from his childhood. According to Wikipedia, a stranger came to Bertino's house, asking for someone who wasn't there. He later found out that if nobody answered the door, the house would be broken into at night. While certainly not a happy situation, apparently nobody actually died or had their homes broken into while they were home. Still, it makes sense that this kind of film would be so unnerving. Home invasions can happen to anyone, and they can end in many horrible ways. Don't let this film scare you too much, though. One thing that makes horror movies less scary is looking up the actors in real life. Okay. Liv Tyler as Kristen. Scott Speedman as James. Glenn Howerton as Mike Cool. Cool. Now, who plays the villains? Let's see. Kip Weeks as Man in the Mask. Okay. Laura Margolis as Pinup Girl. Gemma Ward as Dollface? Wow. She can invade my house anytime. Sorry, I didn't write that. Yeah, that joke was awful. I know. Blame the guy who wrote this, not me. Don't blame the guy who has to read and record this. Until next time. Nah, who am I kidding? None of you gonna come back next time after that joke.